Hey everyone, welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast. I'm Tim Chelsvik.
And I'm Matt Drury. And we got Trevor Walker with us today. We're going to be going over kind of what prep we've been doing for the season. It's here. You know, and we took a week off. We had a lot of cool things happening lately here at Drury Outdoors. First, we probably ought to recap as to why we've been MIA for a week here.
We've been a little busy with a little project called DeerCast.
Absolutely. So the big news for us is it's finally launched. We launched it on August 28th, and it's been going like gangbusters so far. We're closing in. Today's the Wednesday, the 12th, and we're closing in on 50,000 subscribers today. It's nuts.
So cool.
You know, we were just, being totally honest about it. We were hoping to get to 50,000 for the fall. We really didn't know what to expect. We felt pretty confident that we had a good product and something that would bring value to your average hunter out there, your average whitetail hunter. But I think, the response so far has even surprised us a little bit.
Yeah, because the crazy thing is most people haven't had a chance to really use the primary aspect of DeerCast, which is the deer movement forecaster.
Yeah, so, the cool part about it, once you get there and once you download the app, there's tons of other content in there. There's tons of reasons to be into the app. So all of our old video library, we remastered everything dating back to 1989, King of the Spring and Sound of the Spring, Monster Bucks, all those types of titles. It's awesome to go back and kind of reminisce. And for the newer generation, it's the first time they're seeing where Mark and Terry got their start. That's pretty cool.
To me, one of the coolest things in those old titles is the old camo styles, all the old gear, the big trucker hats, the mustaches.
Yeah.
That to me has always been like an indicator of I'm getting older when styles that I can remember are no longer in fashion.
Well, Mark and Terry kind of had the porn look going on back then. It was, they were not trendsetters by any means.
Golly.
Big mustache, big hat, everything.
Yeah.
Glasses.
I think it's Sound of the Spring. It might be Longbeards of the Spring, but I think it's Sound of the Spring, that intro where everybody's hidden. And then all of a sudden, one by one, I think it starts with Dad, and he's kind of introducing people one by one, and so-and-so from, Jackson, Mississippi, and they come out of the woodwork, and they're wearing that old mossy oak.
Yeah.
I think it's Bottomland, maybe.
Yep.
And still to this day, 30 years later, that might be our best intro.
Cool. It is so cool.
And there's no special effects there.
Yeah.
None.
And the crazy thing is Bottomland is coming back into vogue. Like everyone wants to be wearing the retro Bottomland.
The throwback. So it's pretty cool because it's before like high-end color correction and fancy graphics. And I mean, that was just literally a Panasonic AG450 set up, a big camera about a foot and a half long, set up there on a tripod, hit record, and I remember as a little boy watching them practice that over and over and how many takes it took them to do it. But the end result, the other part about it, there was no cut in there. That's one take.
Wow.
So you ought to get DeerCast just to go check out Sound of the Spring and look at that intro because it's a classic. It really is.
The other interesting thing is that the deer that are highlighted in those early VHS tapes are like 120s deer.
Oh, that'd be a giant.
And just to see the evolution over time as to what we want to put on air and what we want to feature.
I think it's funny because we take a little bit of heat here and there from, I wouldn't say from our core fan or viewer, more from the outside viewer demo that's like, man, these guys are just hunting in private, deer farms. And the evolution was they didn't always hunt that way. They hunted a lot of public ground back in the day, a lot in Iowa up at Rathbun Lake, I think was what it was called. And they hunted a lot of public ground. And the deer that they were shooting, they've evolved into the point where they're managing these properties now. But it's awesome to see that evolution,
So cool.
DeerCast gives you that ability to go back and kind of take a look back to see where we've gone and where we've come to.
And it doesn't cost anything.
Not this year, it doesn't. So that's the other part about it. I mean, we wanted to make this app available to everybody. So it's on the Android store, the Google Play store. It's free. Just search DeerCast, one word. It's in the Apple iTunes store, the Apple store, App Store, free. Just search DeerCast. And the point is, we want to get as many eyeballs on it to try it out, check it out, give us the feedback so we can make some improvements on it and make it even better. And ultimately, our goal in 2019 is to have a few more features and cool things about the app that are new. But ultimately, there will be like a subscription model to it, probably a yearly fee. And the end of the day, the app, I would love it to be free forever for everyone.
That would be awesome.
The cost to us as a company is so high, and because the usage is so high right now, it's more than we even anticipated in our projections. So, we're kind of just taking it on the chin, the developmental cost and the cost to operate it for the first year. And it's almost like a thank you to our fan base as well to say, hey, give it a try. Let us know your feedback. See what you think about it.
Yeah, it's been really eye-opening to me as to what it takes not only to launch an app, but what it takes to maintain it in terms of sheer cost.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all good though. It's been a great experience, and we've talked about it on the podcast quite a bit. It's something that we beta tested all last year. So we had a version of the app. It's come a long way in that year's time. The look, the feel, the way it works, the way you can interact as a user in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like its own little social network without the algorithm, without somebody in the West Coast telling you can or can't see something, or the content's too sensitive for your eyes. Well, this is a hunting app. It's about our livelihoods, our lifestyles, and everybody that's in there. It's kind of a welcome group, for just us, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that folks can kind of get in on the ground floor of the app this year and give us some feedback on it. In the DeerCast app, there's a way for you to include feedback on just how on track your DeerCast was. So if you got a great for that particular day, maybe you didn't see as many deer as you thought you should, you can leave feedback for us. So people are helping us further develop and refine DeerCast for version 2.0.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this podcast or watching it and you want to find out more or understand DeerCast before you download it, we did a podcast with Mark and Terry a couple weeks back, and it's kind of a understanding your DeerCast and what all goes into it, how they kind of came up with this predictive model and algorithm for that model. And so by all means, we'll put a link to that in the comments or whatever, or in the description here, and you can go check out that one as well. But I'd highly suggest it if you haven't already, because we could sit and chit chat about it all day long, but Mark and Terry talking about it and kind of relaying the knowledge as to why we did it and what the factors are in, you just can't duplicate that message that they can give.
No. Yep. So, the other thing that folks can do for us is to leave an honest review of your experience in your app store, whether it's Google Play or whether it's Apple.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the Apple side, the reviews have been all positive. It's like a 4.8 rating out of a 5. Hi. Well, over on the Google Play Store, we got dinged up a little bit in the beginning because Android's kind of like the Wild West of phones. And so at the beginning there, we didn't realize it, but there's if you had the 4.4 operating system, our app didn't really speak to your phone very well. And so we got dinged up a little bit in the reviews for that, but we actually have updated that fix and there's like language in there for those that have that older phone to let them know ahead of time that it probably doesn't work well. But you have a Google or Samsung.
I have a Pixel. I have a Google Pixel with Android. So it's, if you're on 4.4, we're on version 9 of Android. So it's probably time to update anyways.
Yeah.
Or it's a good excuse to get a new phone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to, but if you want this cool app, it might be worth it. So anyways, but like I said, we can go on and on about DeerCast, but that's kind of the highlights of it. We're excited. We're super excited about it. And as we get into the fall here, you're going to see us talk about it and advertise it a little bit more and get it into as many people's hands as we can this fall. And hopefully y'all like it. It's been a lot of work, a long path to get here, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now.
Absolutely. So it's an incredible time of year. There's a lot of anticipation. I know I've been out checking trail cams. I know we're all feverishly, thumbing through our pictures to see what we have. How are things looking at the Lease?
Well, the Lease, this year, it's very interesting. I don't say, and Trevor, so everybody knows, like Trevor is the guy that helps me with all the food plot work, hanging the stands. That once we were filming, obviously he's my camera guy during the fall. I mean, he's in there on that piece as much as I am. And I'd say this is the first year that I have not been excited about any deer that we have. We're just not getting. We got some bucks. I mean, we got some 4-year-old deer, maybe a 5-year-old, but like nothing.
No
exciting,
killers.
You know, PH last year and Hook the year before and Blades the year before. Like we had a run there where we had 150 to 180 class deer every year where you're like, holy cow, I am super excited going into the season. And this year we really don't have that much, and it's a shame because the farm set up really great. Like we didn't have to go in there and do a lot of work this summer, which is a good thing. We weren't in there fiddle farting around and messing up.
I've never heard that term before.
That's a Terry term all day long. Yeah, so we weren't in there messing up, the kind of the herd and putting our scent everywhere. And it was great. I was looking forward to this year. And we put the analogics out in the summer months and just weren't really getting a ton of big bucks. So now that being said, it's probably the best that our food source from the farmer has looked in the 5 or 6 years we've been on the farm. I mean, his corn is unbelievable and his beans look great. I mean, it's unbelievable how well his crops turned out this year. Yeah. And we got a lot of timely rains. Realistically.
We did. Yeah, I mean, our food plots look better than they ever have too. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate. I'm not as excited, but once the crops start coming out, and that's another thing. Like they're already taking out the corn in a lot of those areas where we're at. Like I need to touch base with the farmer and see when he's planning on it, but. That should help us too, because usually it's October.
End of October
when they're doing that. Sure. And it's always kind of screwed us a little bit because we're sitting in the stand and they're cutting out the corn.
Last year they cut the beans on November 7th.
Yeah.
And we sat all day that day and listened to them cut the main bean field there. So
so realistically that should help our cause once all those crops, we always say it every year. It's like, well, once the crops come out, we'll see what kind of deer we get.
Right.
And because we're in an area there in the Mississippi River bottom where there's a lot of crops. So once they come out and all that cover goes away, we're kind of the first set of real timber cover close to the river. So it could get good here for us.
It totally changes the dynamic of the farm once all those crops are out.
Yeah. So I'm kind of holding my judgment on the year. Yeah. It's too early to tell. The short-term prognosis is we're just not really excited about the lease just yet. Now, the other piece that we've been talking a lot about leading up to, in the previous podcast was the new piece that we bought just a little bit north of the lease. Dad and I purchased it in April-ish, and it's on the Mississippi River. It has a ton of potential. It's all cover. It never really had any food on it. And the neighbors, and we've had a great relationship with the neighbors so far. They've been great to converse with and very helpful. And they're managing, QDM. But so far, it's flooded 3 times since we closed on it. And so I've pulled the cameras twice on it. And my neighbor was telling me, he talked to the local farmers, and they said it's the worst summer flooding they've seen since '86. So the point of it is we didn't put any crops in, in like late spring thinking, okay, it might flood. It did flood. Yeah. We got our cameras out and then flooded again around July, late June, early July. So we pulled the cameras for that. And so that delayed us doing any kind of work to get food, prep work, stands hung and camera inventory and all that stuff. And so then it finally receded. We got back in there and we got our food plots in. We got our cameras out. I finally got a decent shooter of both properties. The most exciting deer I've had. 150 class whitetail. I was super excited to see him. And then boom, boom, boom. It's getting ready to flood. Yeah, and it's underwater right now, probably by about 4 feet. So we had to go back in. It was 2 weeks to the day after we pulled our trail cameras, or after we planted our food plots. Food plots looked great. We had our plan in place. We had our stands hung, cameras out. And we had to yank the cameras, and so we're currently waiting for it to recede. Yeah. And it's probably going to be late September till we can get in there. So Now it's all about us trying to come up with a new game plan and talking to Mark and Dad, and because I'm at a loss. It's like, all right,
it's kind of unprecedented.
Now what? Because really, this was our whole strategy. Drury Outdoors, our strategy in general, is all based on food source.
Yeah.
And this property is all this bedding, and the not in the off season. It's primarily just doe bedding,
right?
Realistically, doe and fawns. Like the trail camera pictures that I do have, it's a lot of doe and a ton of fawns, like a ton of fawns. So that tells us a little something. It tells us that there's a lot of breeding going on in there, which is kind of our thought process. Is during the rut, they're coming in there and they're scent checking the bedding areas, and and it could be really good, especially on that river bank. I mean, they can cruise this flat. It's really set up really pretty. So you think, okay, add food, you got bedding, you got cover, all that, you got water all over the place.
Right.
That's not an issue. So you just need to add food. Well, we added the food and boom, it's gone. So what do we do now? And I think, the only comparison I have is when Mark and Terry have a really high drought summer. So they plant their fall food plots in August or whatever, and they just don't germinate. We don't get the rainfall, which wasn't the case this year. Like we're doing pretty well, honestly. For as bad as the drought was in the summer, we got some really timely rains this late summer after we planted across all our properties. So when this has happened to them in the past, outside of getting a freaking pump, water truck and pumping water on it, they would go in and plant oats or wheat or something like that. So I think our plan is to go in and try to plant some oats if we can. Now the dilemma for us is we don't have any equipment. So we have a Can-Am side by side.
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah. So we got to rely a little bit on contacting and hiring people out to do some of that work, because we feel like we're probably going to have to disc it up.
Yeah.
The moisture content will probably be right if we hit it right. We got to hit it right. Yeah. But then, Mark's saying we really need to till in or drill in the oats.
Yeah.
And we don't really have that equipment either. Yeah. So we don't know if we're going to broadcast it yet and see what happens, or we're not sure. 100%.
And it's getting to the point too where it's so late in the year that you kind of take what you can get, and a little it would be much better than nothing on that farm.
Yeah.
So.
And realistically, they say, I guess, oats, it only takes 10, 15 days to germinate and grow. Yeah. And so we wouldn't, based on the moon this year, like we're going to miss the moon hitting right in September. We're going to miss that. And I'm just prepared for that.
Right.
It's going to happen. If a cold front comes in, we're not hunting that piece until everything's lined up for us. So realistically, plan it early October. Hopefully by the time that moon comes back around, we get the right cool front and we hit it just right the 20th through the 24th.
Yeah.
Food's coming up, the crops are out everywhere else, and we're set. So that's what's going on.
It's a pretty big caveat to your season.
It totally changed the game for us for what I was so pumped going into this year. And because the complaint's always been on the lease, like, well, we just don't have the control. It's not ours. The farmer, God bless him, he's in there doing his stuff, and he's got a job to do and all that, and cattle, and it doesn't really align with our goals.
Right. Now you got your own piece.
No cattle, no problems. Well, we got a river to contend with.
Yeah. Maybe we need to recode DeerCast to include a factor for depth of water.
4 feet. It's so
bad.
Yeah, the last time the neighbor sent me the text that said, hey, you might want to pull your cameras, I was like, what? I wasn't paying attention to it closely enough. I'm like, it hadn't even really rained that hard up to that point. And then, of course, with everything going on with the hurricanes and all that, it really got pounded.
3 inches of rain. So,
yeah.
Well, it's a little hard for me right now going into the season without any clear shooters on my trail cams, but it kind of brings me back to my college days when I was deer hunting a lot without trail cams. And there's just kind of an aspect of it's a little fun to be excited by not knowing what's out there and to get surprised by seeing a really good buck.
For sure. There's a part of that, but also when you're so busy in general in life with family, you got a young family like I do, and we're both really busy. You're busy at work. It's just like, you kind of want to have the intel. That's the whole point of DeerCast, to give you a little bit more intel so that you maybe don't waste your time on the bad days.
Right.
And, so that I agree with you. It's nice to have the excitement of the what ifs. And I think we're going to kind of be in that boat on the new piece. But there would also be it would be really nice to kind of generally know, like, are you wasting your time when you have so little time to waste?
Well, so that kind of wraps up our thinking about what we have to look forward to on our properties.
Yeah, I think we covered it pretty well. Like I said, I feel like we kind of have a little bit of a tempered excitement. We're excited that the season's here, obviously, but there's a lot of unknowns.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, which that's cool too. Maybe I'll get a chance to actually sneak up to Terry's farm early season. I haven't done that in a long time. Go crash in on his spot. But I think we covered it pretty well.
Well, if you're watching the show right now, it's easy to subscribe to it, and that's probably the best way to get the show because it comes automatically to your device.
Yes, absolutely.
You can find us on the Google Play Store. You can find us in the Apple iTunes Store. Just search for Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast. You can also find us on Stitcher and Spotify. Pretty much any place that you would find a podcast, you can search for us and find us.
Subscribe.
Please do. Yeah. And you can be relatively famous and be on the show by leaving us a question, going to the website, dryoutdoors.com/podcast, clicking on the Speak Pipe tab on the right-hand side of the screen, and that will open up a voice recorder, and you can leave us a message. And thank you to everyone who has submitted a question so far. Some of them are a little seasonal, so if you've submitted a question, you're wondering, like, when's my question going to air? If it's summer-related, it will probably air next summer when it's a little more relevant. Well, Matt, how about DeerCast, social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, if you're watching this podcast, please subscribe to the Drury Outdoors YouTube channel. We've just reached 75,000, so we gave a bow away. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. We're going to give one more PSE away, so please subscribe and enjoy. We have all kinds of new content that's getting ready to hit this fall. I think we put up like 5 or 6 new pieces of content every week, so almost something every day. And new episodes of Natural Barn will start airing on our YouTube channel, so please, by all means, subscribe there. Of course, you can always follow us at Drury Outdoors across any of the major social channels. And the big thing is DeerCast. You know, we talked about it there in the front end, but we're super excited. You're going to be able to see, we failed to mention this part, you're going to be able to see all of the kills as they happen this fall on the DeerCast Now portion of the app.
It's unprecedented. We've never done that before.
Yeah, so we're super excited. I mean, you won't have to wait until next fall, next summer to see this stuff. We'll still be doing our TV shows. We're still going to be producing them for, the content on YouTube later down the road, but the raw clip, you're going to be able to see it as it happens, within hours, within a day of when it happens. So that's pretty cool, and that's probably reason enough to go get the free for the season app. So go to the Android store or the Apple App Store and search DeerCast, all one word. Check it out, download it, let us know what you think.
Yeah, especially by leaving a review. Leave an honest review for us. That really helps us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So until next time.
Yeah, let's shut this thing down.
Peace.
See ya.
This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by Lacrosse Footwear. We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content.